So maybe no surprise that the wave we're now going to go to is the metaverse. It was a year ago that I was already saying metaverse, and people saying, it's the first time I'm hearing about this thing. 2 years ago, I started talking about it to our own Crystal Circle members who are my mentoring clients. And then I started actually doing videos about it. In fact, I was giving examples at that point, like for example, Burning Man, where I was saying communities were actually getting created and connected to each other. And these communities were then finding smart ways to then link up in the metaverse as well. And this has happened with Burning Man, which has been canceled for 2 years now, where you've got 70,000 people going out to the desert together. And it's all about self-expression. I brought my family out where we're all there together and just getting connected to what the world could actually be like if we didn't have governments. Would we all become like in some dystopian future, or would we actually create some kind of utopia? Would we actually figure out smart ways that we could work together and treat each other better? So many entrepreneurs will go out to a place like Burning Man and they will rekindle and reignite their faith in humanity. So I gave that as an example a year ago. Another example I gave was education and just how much education has changed. We have seen a huge wave in education, which we'll get to, but how much it was like the likes of Coursera was all two-dimensional, and there was already three-dimensional learning that was taking place. And I gave examples like already they were talking about metaverses coming. This is one of the few articles that was out at that time. And just look at just how much the numbers have changed. 148 billion this year. It's going to go to 476 billion. It's going to triple within the next 4 years. I think it's going to be a lot bigger than this, but this is currently like from PwC. And then basically going up by a factor of 10 within the next 9 years, basically. And this directly links to the currencies and also the structures that make up the metaverse, which is the blockchain, and how basically we're able to take every single physical thing or virtual thing in that metaverse, and that element in that metaverse allows us to have a way to exchange without having to have lawyers, without having to have bankers, without having to have accountants, without having to have governments. We can actually just do it all ourselves because of the way that we're distributing trust, so that we actually have a way to do things without a middleman. And that is the biggest shift that's about to happen with the metaverse. Virtual real estate sells for a record $2.4 million. What's happening at the moment on places like Decentraland, where people are physically buying. And if you say, well, why would someone actually buy something for 2.4 million? The person who actually bought it is a company. It's not a person, it's a company called tokens.com. So tokens.com, they have bought over what is effectively a part of Decentraland. Think of Decentraland effectively like a 3D space where you can go buy things. And they basically went in there and they bought Fashion Street. This is where they now can actually now sub-sell all the different parts of Fashion Street. It's like going in and buying Oxford Circus or Oxford Street, or going in and buying Times Square. That's pretty much what they've done. And then so of course, like 2.4 million, they already know they can make 10 times their money back by basically how they now sell out the subplots. Just 4 metaverse projects sold $106 million in virtual land last week. Imagine you're sitting there in London in the 18th century and you're hearing these stories of people buying into some place called Manhattan, right? Or someone they're buying into this, place called America, where people are going in there and they're kind of like creating a whole new land. And you're just sitting there in London going, it's like, that's not me. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. And of course, it'd be difficult to do it yourself because you'd have to physically get on a boat and cross the Atlantic to be part of that as well. But this is as simple as a click of the button and you get into the new world where this is all happening right now, where people are getting involved and getting part of it. And by the way, if you said, well, make it easy for me, Roger, like where should I go right now? I'd say just do 2 things. Just get yourself an account on Decentraland and get yourself an account on Sandbox, just those 2 places, and basically just buy your first tokens there. No different from if you were to join, if you've got kids, they're probably already on Fortnite or on Roblox or on Minecraft. Just as simple as going to one of those and just buying some in-house currency. It's really as simple as that, and just get started. So San and Mana, they have surged in November. So when I first did a video about the metaverse, like a month ago, I started buying into Mana. Mana went up 600%. It dropped a bit, but it's still 400% more. Think about that for a minute, right? You buy $20,000, it becomes worth $80,000 within 1 month. And we're only at the very, very beginning of this because everyone needs the currency in order to be able to be buying within there as well. And it's going at its pace. Adidas has gone in there. You've got all these different companies. Nike is now in there. All the different companies are all jumping in right now as well, right? Because for the first time, there is a visible use case for cryptocurrency. Like if you bought Bitcoin, you bought Ethereum, you might have found a use case for Ethereum, like buying NFTs. We're going to get onto that. But if you're buying a currency, like, well, what do I do with this? I just hold on to it and then sell it later, or can I buy things with it? Now you're saying, oh, we're actually in a world where we can actually use this to buy and sell things. So now there's a use case which people are now moving at pace, which is why metaverse cryptocurrencies have grown far, far faster than any other ones, right? So here's Sandbox, for example, right? Now, if you look at Sandbox here, and it's super simple. You just go in there, you just play the alpha, click join up, and you're in it straight away. And you can see here, very, very, like this looks very much like Minecraft. It's Minecraft for adults, right? So basically you're in there and able to actually create the lands, build the pieces that you want to build in there. You can just wander around, find other people's things in there as well. But I highly recommend, if there's one thing you do today, is just realize this world has started, and it's a multi-million-dollar world where the people getting started can make millions very quickly. This is Decentraland. So I'll show you just how simple this is, right? Like, I don't know, I just click on to get into my guest account, start exploring. You just click start exploring, and then you go in here and it basically like just drops you in. I'll just play as a guest, right? Like you play using your wallet, so you can just buy, or just play as a guest, which means you're not going to buy anything at this point. You're just going to kind of wander around and see what's happening. And if any of you remember Second Life and how that used to operate, this is like 10 times more in terms of activity and things now happening within the whole land. So of the things you can go visit, they've already got entertainment outlets. They've already got places you can go buy things from people. You've got like, groups where you can actually go in and chat. We're setting up our first beta of our Genius U Metaverse within Decentraland. So when I'm doing my mentoring, we're going to have a room in there that you can actually come and join and be part of that as well. This means you don't need goggles at the moment. Like a lot of people think Metaverse means I need to have virtual reality goggles and so on. It's like, no, this is exactly the same as how most people are experiencing 3D worlds right now. They're doing it straight from their laptop or from their mobile phone. I can kind of wander around. I can see all the different things that are happening here. And there's games I can play. There's things I can look at, right? So all these different elements are already in here as people are wandering around, and then et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. I'm going to give you a couple of other links here, like NFTs. Right? Why is NFTs so important, especially when it comes to the metaverse? Because obviously buying a piece of land, an NFT is a non-fungible token for anyone who wants to know. And a good way to think about this is think of an NFT a little bit like a URL, right? So a URL, as you know, once you actually own a URL for a website, you own that URL. No one can own it except you, right? So then you can start building things on your website. And so you've got people who are buying all sorts of things, whether it is works of art, collectibles, music. And then these are actually growing even faster than cryptocurrencies are growing, because once you own something, people go, oh, I'd like to own that. And if you actually own a piece of land on Decentraland, or if you own a piece of land on Sandbox, then no one else can own it, and people will come visit you, and they'll keep coming back to visit you there. And then you can actually be selling your art, or you can be selling the different items, elements that you have as well. We're going to be using NFTs in a lot of the things that we're selling, so that if we have a limited number of different courses that we have, you can have an NFT and you can sell it on to someone else if you like. Right, so your ability to access a membership to something, an event to something, is very easy to then sell on without having to go through a third party. A lot of people are now using NFTs for things like event tickets, because up to now, if someone had an event ticket and wanted to resell to somebody else, then it's very difficult to do it without a third party, and they'll always take a commission. Whereas now you can just go and straight away buy whatever you're looking for, because you know you own it immediately the moment you actually transact. And so again, like I said, the middleman disappears altogether. This is huge, $27 billion. And this has grown at, we're talking about thousands of % per year that we're seeing the NFT market that is growing. You look at how, and we're just at the very beginning of this at the moment in terms of number of people that are part of this. So in the same way that URLs, we've now got millions of websites around the world with millions of URLs, we are going to have trillions of NFTs, which effectively are URLs for objects, which means that you actually have the ownership of that object. These are two examples right now of where you can start from if you're just starting to understand this. So this one here is Nifty Gateway. If you ever heard of the Winklevoss twins, they're the guys that were part of creating Facebook. And then they basically left Facebook. They're now billionaires again. You can see that this one here, Winklevoss NFT platform, could be worth 1.2 billion. They've already made like about 30 billion just off Bitcoin. And now they set up the NFT marketplace just when it was getting started, Nifty Gateway. Which is this one here. So what we're seeing here is their company, and a lot of the buying and selling that happens, they happen on an exchange like this. You can buy something here, you can then sell it to somebody else. And of course, if you've actually gotten an address in the metaverse and you buy some digital art, you can then put that digital art in your room. You can create your own gallery. So there's people out there that are already doing this. If you heard about Metacoven, who bought Beeple's artwork for $69 million, he's basically putting it in a virtual gallery. So you can just go in there and visit it and see it as well. We are at a point in the metaverse which is equivalent to what was happening when the internet started. And do you remember CompuServe or AOL? Right. So these are like walled gardens where it's much easier to understand the internet at the very beginning. If you go and join CompuServe, they'll give you the email address. They'll give you basically like, the community you can join, but you're pretty much doing it all inside CompuServe, right? Or all inside AOL. They will eventually disappear. But if they're smart about what they do, they'll allow you to go open source with it. In the case of AOL and CompuServe, they didn't do that. At the time when the internet took off and people could just go and get a Gmail account and go, browse any different website through a browser. At that point, if AOL had said, okay, we're going to let it all go open source and not charge you the membership, then I'm sure AOL will still be around today. But they didn't do that. So the likes of Decentraland and Sandbox, they're just like AOL and CompuServe. Like you go in there, you set up an account, you get your avatar, you design it so it's the way you want it to look, and then you can just wander around inside that little spot. You're going to see, I'm going to share with you the platforms that I'm creating open source, where you can actually take the same character within Sandbox. You can walk over to Decentraland. You can then wander off into Facebook's world or into Fortnite, or you can actually go with your character and all of your tools and all your contacts and go into Minecraft. And so basically it connects all the worlds together. That's where the metaverse will go. But we're talking probably 18 months away before we have all the tools to do that. And then effectively you can just wander into the 3D worlds, any of the 3D worlds, and they'll all be compatible with each other. The ones who aren't compatible, they'll all die, right? So that's going to happen for sure as well, which is why sometimes investing more in the whole platform rather than just one of these worlds, because you don't know what they're going to do at that time. That's important. But also note, like Facebook have chosen it right now that they're saying they want to be the standard, but they're not going to be the standard because they don't have the level of trust out there. So there are already people out there, including like Vitalik, who own Ethereum, who says, no, we think we're better at actually building the standard. They're already working for likes of people like NVIDIA, who are saying, yeah, we also do. And you're seeing the growth in capital value of these organizations that are thinking open source, right? Because that definitely is where the future is going. And I'll go more into that as we go forward at the moment as well. But I don't want to lose anyone on the way, right? So this is important. For some of you who are new to this, just know I'm just saying, just go and experience it. Like Woody Allen says, 70% of success is showing up. So NFTs, this is one as an example. I'll always give you at least two options. So the second option, which is much bigger than Nifty Gateway right now, is OpenSea. So OpenSea is like the biggest right now in terms of being a marketplace for NFTs. And you can see here all these different, they have all these different drops where people go in to buy art. You can see all the different collections. So you'll see that some of the biggest ones out there are Bored Ape Yacht Club right now, which are basically all collectibles. You can see the Sandbox is in here right now. CryptoPunks is in here. These are all different collectibles and things that you can be a part of. You can go to the rankings so you can see just how big are these right now. So you can see CryptoPunks is number one, the amount of volume of people buying and selling things in there, and just how much is actually increased. Like this is 155% up within 7 days, right? So you can actually say, oh, I'm going to go test this. And you can buy something for like $10, right? And just see just how much it changes in value and just test it out, right? And just see what is happening within the space. But again, think of this like going into a store, which basically people are buying and selling things with each other, or going into the stock market where people are buying and selling things from each other. And you're just basically like giving it a test and seeing how it works. And if you do that and you just start getting a taste of it, I think you'll be amazed at just how quickly you start actually getting hooked with the fact that we are living in a very different world where shifts of 50 to 100% is no big deal. And whatever you're buying, provided you like it, it could go down in value, it might go up in value, but you become part of an entire tide that is growing right now as well. And let me give you one more tip, right? Like this is one that the guys were saying, if you really want to just try this out, the best place to go, because this is absolutely free, is Mozilla Hubs. It's super simple. It works just like Zoom, but the difference from Mozilla Hubs to Zoom is it's a 3D space. So I can just create a room, right? And it will allow me straight away to just go, okay, I'm going to create a 3D room. And it creates a room which is exactly the same as what you're seeing on Decentraland, but it's your room, right? It's like a Zoom room. Everyone can come on board. It's totally free to do. It's on my laptop. I then drop you the link so you can just go into the room as well. We can do this for mentoring. We can do this for our team meetings. Super simple to use. And like I said, it's free. So there are already tools like this that do exist. And I don't believe most people will be using Zoom in the same experience a year from now. I think we'll already have found, things like Mozilla Hubs or even things like Decentraland or Sandbox, where we're actually choosing to have our team meetings, getting connected with each other. And again, without at this point having to be wearing a 3D goggles, but you can if you want to, right? All these things also work with 3D virtual reality goggles. So what am I showing here? I'm showing the fact that in the past, if you wanted to design a website, you would need to actually have the development tools for websites. So say for example, you might use something like WordPress, which is all drag and drop. In the case of 3D worlds, you're not using web developers and you're not using web tools. What you're using is world developers, and what you're using is world engines. So there are two engines which are the main engines to use. It's either going to be Unity. So Unity basically is what is the engine that has created things like all of Facebook's. Facebook doesn't own any of its actual tech as far as the 3D side goes. They're actually using Unity as the engine to build all of the worlds that they're creating. Unity was also used for Pokemon Go. It's used for over half the games in that you see that are 3D games within the Apple Store and the Android Store, right? So it's been around for some time. It just had its public listing. So this is Unity. I invested in Unity like 5 years ago. So like invest in these companies that are doing these things, because they are the future for sure, much more than the likes of the current tech companies in the world. So Unity is one, which is more kind of a little bit more cartoony, but they're getting more and more real in what they do as well. And then the other one, which is out there, the main competitor is Unreal. These guys actually start with super high definition, which means you do need to put a lot more work in to make it work, but you can see just how realistic it starts to look if you use it. Unreal Engine basically is owned by Fortnite, right? So it's all part of that same business. And Fortnite uses Unreal. So Fortnite will definitely be becoming more and more 3D in the view of what it looks like as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing a moment and say, all right, do you have an action to actually go and just taste the metaverse by understanding that it's as easy as joining a computer game? Are you willing to go and actually just like buy your first NFT and just experience the marketplace of this whole new world that we're moving into? And if the answer is yes, post a yes in the comments, right? Like, what is the action you're going to take off the back of this? And let's come back to Jason for just comments from your side, Jason, and any particular questions that might be coming up that you think we should be asking as well.
Well, I'll first start with a breath. This is like awesome, crazy, overwhelming, filled with opportunities. Like, there's so many emotions that come up when I listen to this. As a matter of fact, there's so many stories that I was thinking about as you're doing these presentations. A very short one is there's this movie called Ready Player One. I just rewatched it last week because these are conversations I'm having within my communities here. What would you advise for people that are listening onto this presentation right now who might be feeling the sense like their industry has already collapsed? This was tourism in the case of Peter, and you're looking to reignite yourself. We talked about the various passions, and now you're introducing us to a few different concepts. What are some of the directions you could give to somebody who's maybe at the same space as Peter on ways to just like get back on your feet and get started with absorbing this information?
The biggest thing that we have that stops us is our memory. Just the fact that Peter starts by saying, look, it's like things have been tough and so on. Let's imagine that Peter actually just put a big conch on his head and suddenly put a hammer on his head and said, I've forgotten everything from the past. And all he does is he just wakes up and says, what's my passion? And let's just imagine, because it may or may not be, but let's imagine it's like, oh, my passion is travel. Travel is my passion, right? It's like, what's my purpose? And my purpose is to actually get people to be able to experience the world, right? And it's like, okay, well, I have no idea about any of that stuff. I'm just going to go in as a leading learner. Let's imagine just for 1 minute that I'm a leading learner in that space. Let me just share my screen. And I haven't done this, right? So this is going to be like live that we actually do this. Let me just open up a screen. Let's imagine I have connection to the whole rest of the world. I'm interested right now in what's going on in the metaverse when it comes to travel startups, right? Like, there must be some cool stuff that's happening out there at the moment that I could actually be focusing at, right? You've got these things here: pursuing space travel startups, metaverse, discover 5 startups building the metaverse, which may have something to do with travel. So let me actually go, okay, well, what about if I actually say tourism, right? And I'm going to go, I'm interested in what's going on the tourism side, right? And I might not even just look at what's happening here in terms of like the startups in tourism, but I might even be looking at what is happening in terms of the news. But let me just take an example, right? Let's just take this one here. So you got Marriott. This is 2 days ago, by the way, right? So we're talking about right now. Marriott joins Metaverse of NFT travel art. One of the world's largest hospitality chains taps new digital horizons to create endless experiences for tourists, right? It says Marriott has joined with several digital content creators to launch free NFTs aimed at promoting the global tourism industry. Basically, like, they've got these guys here, digital artists, Trex, design new NFTs to promote the massive hospitality franchise Power of Travel global campaign. So you can see there's a campaign that's happening right now, Art-Based Miami Beach. I can go and you can see here, like, look at this, like, got these guys, that are interpretation travel from the artist's point of view, where they're actually running this at the moment. It's like, whoa, this is interesting. Like, they're actually doing this in a way that's linking people in. Like, there's nothing that would stop Peter from saying, I want to do this in South Africa. Like, this is so cool. I'm going to go to the Marriott in South Africa and say, guys, like, you're doing this in Miami. Do you want to do this in South Africa as well? Because I'm in the travel industry. I can bring other people into it as well. You can go straight back to some of the guys that are here that are already, like FaZe Clan, right? Like, the artist community there is a big community, right? You've got here, you can see 5.6 million people, right? I can already tweet, hey guys, like, we're going to be running one of these in South Africa. Let's play. And you immediately get tuned into the flow. I could keep on going, but you get the point that it's all out there. And as long as you're sitting back going, oh, things have changed for me, you've forgotten the fact that you're on a wave that already crashed. Like, so don't be sitting there with your surfboard on the beach going, why aren't I going anywhere? Just get back in the sea and get onto that next wave. That would be what I'd say.
Fantastic. So, Peter, hope you heard that loud and clear. I think that's some amazing advice. And it's crazy how access to information is already something we have now. And so to be able to reinvent to go forward is such a luxury that we have. I love the fact that you're telling us where to get started, right? Because we can go and create a unit on Decentraland. Are there other things that we should be considering? Like, is there any risk of just going to create an account? Is it as simple as just signing up? Or are there things that we should be worried about?
Nope, it's as simple as signing up, just like, and you can cancel at any time. And it's about just getting, the most important thing is, the biggest risk in the world today is not trying and not learning. Like, that's the biggest risk, because then you get left behind massively. So that's the biggest thing, is like, don't overthink it. Just go do it, right? And then experience it, and then realize it's not as tough or not as difficult. But if you do miss out, you'll be kicking yourself in the same way that anyone who was watching me 10 years ago who didn't buy Bitcoin at 6 cents is going to be kicking themselves today, right? It's just nuts how many of us hear all this stuff and still don't do anything about it, right? So that is the biggest thing I would say for everybody. You're an entrepreneur. That means you're meant to be trying new things, right? That's the most important thing.